Welcome, everyone. I'm going to introduce our speaker, my friend and coworker, Jonathan Wright, who is a sales expertise and extraordinaire. Jonathan was a former sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps. He went into sales after serving our country, and started sales in the 90s. His primary focus is in the financial sector, and he started in the 2000s. He started retail banking as a teller, a personal banker, a branch manager of a bank and of a credit union. He is a VP of sales for a local community bank, and moved on to account management and card and network processing for the last 12 years. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Evan, and I'm so glad you said in the 90s instead of the 1900s. So I really do appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming to join this. I heard we've had a pretty good turnout, so thank you for that. Sherry over at Priority Credit Union is the mastermind behind this. She wanted me to do she wanted some sales training, and come to find out we didn't offer any. So we got with Visa, and they graciously sponsored this. So thank you to the people there that pushed through to get us some money to put this together and make this available for everyone. This is going to be a very informal presentation. This is not going to be all croissants and everything else. It's just going to be donuts and jelly rolls. You know, this is going to be the down and dirty basics of why I believe sales is service. I want to provide you just simple, easy questions, a process of thought, if you will, of when you're talking to your members, when you're talking to your clients, of providing that service, which we are going to know is sales. So we've already done the introductions. We'll define those definition of sales, do a little bit of service training 101 or sales training. It's really important that you know your deliverables. What products and services do you have? How do they work? What are those benefits? What are those features? So you can understand those products and services and how it ties together when you're offering them back to the client, because it's not always about, and you're going to hear this over and over again during this presentation, about making or saving them money, but it's about making them money, because it's a finding that best product that serves your members the best. That going through that definition of needs-based sales, what that actually means. This might catch a little flack from some of the bosses that are on the call, but why I think scripts stink. Try to have a little bit of fun, obviously, with some role play, and see if somebody wants to contribute to that. And then basically what I'm going to call the two major rules, and of course, define the tripod. Very informal. If you have questions, ask. Evan's going to be keeping the chat open so she can see them. Raise your hand. I don't know if you have everybody muted, Evan, but I want people to be able to unmute or be able to chime in and talk, ask questions, because the best thing happens when we're having a conversation. If you're just going to sit here and listen and to me speak for an hour and a half, 2 hours, everybody knows how to read. I want it to be interactive. I want you guys to ask questions. I want everyone to get in the mode of having that conversation, of getting the dialogue going, getting the questions going back and forth, because that's how we engage in service, and that's essentially what sales is. So she's already done my introduction. This was me at the Tennessee Credit Union Convention. It was a 20s and 30s phase, and we had to go flappers, and so we got to dress up, so I got to wear my bow tie. But you guys already know about me. So when we talk about sales, when we say that word, I would really love to hear what comes to mind when you guys think of sales. What do you think it is? Anybody have a definition of it? Would anybody like to say what you think your definition of sales is?
Yes, I will describe my definition of sales. So I think sales is finding a solution to a problem and helping them by giving them value.
Absolutely. And so that when you think of sales, you think of the car salesman. You're not just selling a product, you're selling a service that's going to benefit them. When you think of consultative, when somebody walks onto that car lot, and what are you looking for? What problem do you have? Because we're problem solvers. That's what we love to do as service people. Nobody wants to be well, I shouldn't say that. Very few people want to be salespeople. They want to be service. They want to be able to help people. I was raised by my mother. I'm a people pleaser. I love helping people. That's my drug. When I help people succeed, it makes me feel good about me. And when you listen to their problems, they will tell you, what do you need? Oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm driving 40 miles one way to work. Well, you don't need a pickup truck. You need something that's fuel efficient. You want to be able, it's obviously simplifying it, but you want to be able to find those solutions for the problems that they have. And that's how we interact with our clients. And finding that best solution, that is our jobs as consultants. It's not to sell anything. We are not at a kiosk in the mall. We are not selling phones. We are providing financial solutions for our members. We are providing a service for our members that's going to best benefit them. And once you get that mindset of this is how I want to do this, you're not focused on the goals. I know we all have goals. I know we all have sales expectations that our bosses and our supervisors expect us to get. I have them. Everybody has them. And when you focus on those goals, now you're just focusing on that selling versus how am I selling those, providing those services for the members, for my clients. That's the long-term gain that's going to benefit them, that's going to benefit me, benefit the organization. That's a little bit of a teaser for the tripod. And, or I should, I guess, spoiler would be the best word, but that's the piece that we're going for here. So again, we're looking for those best solutions for it. So when we define service, service is a lot easier thing to define. Oh, the smile on your face, the warm, welcoming demeanor of you, your office space, your desk, your background, the building that you work in. And it can be the mantra from the organization that you provide. People think of nurses, teachers providing those services, waiters and bellhops and everything else. You could go down that line, but when you think of service and what you provide for your members, what is it for you? Is it, hey, I genuinely want to help. This is why I'm here. You know, if you're in a community credit union, which most of you are, that's why you're here. You can go to a bank, probably make more money, and then have to live by people constantly turning over and having those lofty sales goals. But we're here at these community credit unions. Why? Because we like to serve, because we want to help our members, because we want to do that good thing. We can go on and on with that. Or because I don't want to sell. That's a dirty word. I can't do that. That's not me. I don't, I can't do those things. I'm not a used car salesman. I don't want to fill that quota. I don't want to make, my boss rich. I don't want to work 80 hours a week and put in all that overtime so my boss can get a new Ferrari. And, hopefully next year I can do it again so he can get a second Ferrari. That's not why we're here. When we think of that sales piece, are we looking for those solutions that drive value, that drive benefit, that drive operational savings, that drive fiscal savings? Are we providing solutions that make and save our members money? I'm going to say this over and over again because it is how I live my life. When I was at Fiserv, I was a very good salesman. I would make the Pinnacle. I'd get my plaques and all that fun stuff, but I never looked at it as selling pieces. When I would talk to my clients, where are you foundering? Where do you need help? Where are you foundering? What can I do to help them be more successful in what they do? And when I do that, the sales were they were the afterthought. When I would get the sale and close the deal, well, how did you do that? Well, because I genuinely cared. And because I cared and they trusted me, they were able to let down their guard enough for me to find them the best solution. This is what I do for a living. I know this stuff. They do too. Let's find the best things that work for them and find those solutions. I'm the engineer. I want to fix the problem, make them the money, and move on. It is a very difficult thing to do, to put that other person first instead of thinking of, oh, I got to get this quota. Oh, what does this person, what can I sell this person, versus I want to help this person, and then who gets the benefit from that. So when you're looking at that service and you're defining your service as who you are, this is what I do, this is how I help my members, is it sales? Is it a dirty word? Or are you doing it for all the right reasons? I know I talk a little fast because I get nervous. Are there any questions so far before we get into the nitty gritty? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? All right, we're going to move on. So when we talk about needs-based sales, so we're all here in the South. Everybody's familiar with Publix, or at least I like to think that you are. And everybody's familiar with Walmart. So when you can buy the same products at Walmart cheaper than Publix, why would anybody go to Publix? It's not because of the people of Walmart.com, I'm sure. It's because of the service. It's because the expectations of the clean store, the people that smile. There's not just one cashier open, or you have to check it out yourself. And I still haven't got my my 1040 for the last year from working at Walmart. So people will pay for that service. So when people will pay for service, now we got to talk about those products of how are we providing that solution. So when you're selling a product or any product, how are we doing this? Are we cutting costs? Are we finding value? Are we driving revenue? Are we looking for operational procedural changes that will save them money? So when you're looking at a way of doing things for your members, if there's a particular product that will do this, but there's another product that'll do this and save them money or time down the road because of the operational efficiencies that are involved, that's where the benefit comes. So when I did merchant processing, there's a set rate that Visa, MasterCard, American Express, there's like 800 of them. And those interchange rates are set forth by the government, come down on high from Valhalla, and this is what it's going to be and how it's going to work. So when merchant processors would go sell their product, what they would do is, oh, I'm going to sell it on a margin. I'm going to sell it on lowering that price to give the best value. Or I'm going to sell it on simplicity. I'm just, instead of having 1,800 or 800 prices, I'm just going to give you 3. And so I'm going to make it very easy. Economy, a middle, premium rate, and this is what you pay. So it makes your bill very simplistic, and there is value in that. When I would go I went to a vendor, I wouldn't necessarily talk about price as much as I would talk about how does that process run? And we find out how that process run. And when we found out that instead of running through this particular venue, we could go through what's called level 3 billing and cut their interchange down by 300%. It was huge because they did all these large ticket sales. So I was able to find them a solution that saved them thousands of dollars a month. And we never once talked about price because I was saving them the money. And that's how we look at things. So it's not coming down to price to sell. It's coming down to finding those solutions that we need, or I should say that the member needed or the client needed, in order to be of enough value for them to change and earn their business. And they were happy until I left that organization 6 years later, because I was the one that came in and found them a better way of doing things. And that's what people are always looking for. And thinking outside of the box, looking at your options to find those best products. So, that's where the operational procedural comes in, but that's also where the trust is. Are you that trusted advisor? Are you the one that is going to sit there and listen to what I have to say or the member has to say to figure out what you need. And then you're competent enough to provide them a solution so they can bring the walls down, so they can trust you because you have their best needs at heart. You're not there to sell them something. You're there to help them find a solution for their problems. That's the mindset that we have to be in. This is why we do it. The sales at the end of it, yes, it has to happen. And that's the byproduct of what we do. And that's the benefit at the end of the day or the end of the month or the quarter when we get those commission checks of why we are doing this. Yes, we are all here for money. Money makes the world go around. Nothing exists in the world that doesn't involve money or power or religion. And so, yeah, we need to do this, but why are we doing this, and are we doing this in the right way? It is so important to come across genuine because you care. And that gives you not just pride in what you do and enjoyment in the work that you do, but also it fosters the relationship because people will buy for 3 reasons. They like the product, they like the price, and they like you. And when you are genuine and they like you, then you're allowed to service them. So when that's said, we want to know our products. Do we know what they are? How does it work? Do we know the intricacies of it? Because when we do, that's how we find those solutions that can make and save them money. When we're working a big deal, I'm working a big deal with a coworker right now, and they keep coming back to price. And at the end of the day, it's not the price that's the problem; it's the procedural process in getting to that price that's the issue. And that's what we have to find instead of just, oh, we need to cut our price, we need to cut our price. No, we need to change the operational procedural pieces so the cost doesn't come into effect. And that is the key to closing those deals for your clients. Whether it's for a multi-billion-dollar organization or it's for your member across the desk that's looking for help, if we don't know what our products are, if we don't know how they work, how they generate interest, how they save costs, how they benefit people, we just know that they're there. How can we offer them? There is no trust. We don't have that trust with the client. They don't see us as a trusted advisor. They see us as what? The sleazy used car salesman. And I've been there before, and it's a horrible feeling. You don't want to come across, nobody wants to feel disingenuous, and nobody wants to think that you feel that way. Or, oh, this person's faking it because they don't know the product, they can't help me. Or you've seen it before where, you're watching TV and the expert up there, something about that product and well, they don't know anything about that. Why are they even talking about it? And it automatically makes you lose trust. Now those 3 rules, I don't like the person, I don't want to purchase it because they don't like you, and because you've lost that trust. It's a incredibly difficult piece to overcome, to try to, I guess the word I'm looking for would be, I hate to say genuine, or just real. So they will, like I said, bring those walls down and listen to what you have to say. Do you believe in your product? There's products out there that I don't believe in, and I'll tell my boss. And I don't mind saying it here when we're talking about financial industry products and services. Contactless cards, I don't like them. I think they're a waste of money. I think it is a waste of resources to spend your money on them because the financial institution is the one that's buying the hardware. There is no added security for the credit union or for the member. It is the exact same fraud-based security level as an EMV inserted card. It's just a different way of doing it. Now, it is physically safer during COVID where you didn't have to touch anything. But when you look at debit cards 10 years ago, they had a cost of about $1. And then they came out with EMV. And then there was EMV2. And then there were the chip upgrades. And then now there's contactless. The common denominator of all those processes is the credit union is paying for the hardware. Okay, we got 5,000 members, $5 a card. Let's go spend 25 grand, get everybody a new card. Well, wait, now we got EMV contactless cards. Okay, let's go spend $30,000 because they're $1 more and get all those cards out there versus using something like tokenization, a digital wallet. Digital wallets, the exact same technology as a contactless card, but at a fraction of the cost because the member is paying for the hardware. The hardware is in the phone. So, and not only that, it is a safer transaction. So a tokenized transaction is actually created as a token where the PAN is not on the card or the phone. The PAN is held in a vault at Google or Apple, and have fun hacking that. It creates a token for so if Evan on the call wants to go get a cup of coffee at 8:23 Eastern Standard Time at the Starbucks on Main Street, that token creates a prepaid debit card essentially for $5.34 for the Starbucks on Main Street in Raleigh, North Carolina, I think is where she lives. And that's all it's good for. So if I steal that with a skimming device, the only thing I'm going to steal is a worthless token. So now I have a product that is safer for the credit union. It is safer for the member from a fraud standpoint. And it is cheaper because now I don't have to reissue all this new plastic out there. Better for the environment. And it is so much more cost effective. I know I went on a little bit of a rant here on this, but my point to this conversation is I know what contactless cards are. I know how they work. I know digital transactions. I know how they work. And my partner, I think she's on this call on the consulting team. Just one of the things we agree so deeply on this because it's best for our members. She looks at our clients and she's looking for the best way to help her clients, and so do I. And so when it comes to these products, if you want them, if Jennifer says, hey, Jonathan, I really want contactless cards, I will give her my tokenization speech. And at the end of the day, if she wants them, absolutely, I'll go get them for her. But I gave her my recommended advice, that which I think is the best way to make her save her money and be the most successful at what she does for her organization. And at the end of the day, I know that I did my best and I tried to help her by giving her information that she may or may not have known. Because let's face it, contactless cards, everybody's got them, so they must be great. It's the newest, greatest thing. Well, if you're a chip seller, I'm probably sure they are. Or if you're a plastic manufacturer, I'm probably sure they are. But at the end of the day, it is the most cost-effective way, because if there are changes to that card, when what's going to come out next after contactless cards, who's going to be paying for that hardware all over again? The member, versus $30,000 versus $5,000 or $6,000 for tokenization, and you're done. And then the next big thing on the way is going to be the digital wallet, which actually technically emails you a new card to your phone. So there's zero plastic. Just super, super cool technology. I can't wait till it's all mainstream for everybody. And it is coming. It is here. And it is getting more and more mainstream. But that's going to be the next big thing, in my opinion, because now we're getting to eliminate the cost of plastics altogether. It's not going to change the world overnight, just like checks. When mobile banking came out, checks didn't go away overnight. They're still there, slowly but surely going down every year, but they're still there. Digital wallets will do the same thing. Will they make the physical card go away overnight? No. But what will happen is when somebody loses a card and you can email them a new one without having to have an expensive instant issue printer, very cool. And then I'll get my new card, and then 3 years from now, you know what? I don't even need the physical card because I do everything on my phone. Just send me, your information gets updated in your phone, and it'll be done, and it'll be cheap, and the government will love it because they can track every transaction that you do. So of course they're going to push it, and that's going to be the way the world works. But you have to know your products. You have to understand them so you can find that best solution. Because on paper, this is going to be the best solution for most members, But if you're a client and you're in rural farmland and there's not a lot of retail there, may not be the best thing. And so you have to know these pieces so you can help your members. So when we talk about a script, everybody here's seen them. I'm sure if you've done sales or one way or the other, everybody has a script. And they do have some legitimacy. I can't stand them, but they do help to make sure that new people are asking all the right questions, which is great. But if you don't know the answers because you don't know the products, then what is the script? It's fake. Period. The best presentations I have ever done, sales and operational reviews, strategic reviews, are the ones that go completely off the rails, because now we're engaging in conversation and dialogue of what's important to them. You can put together, at Fiserv, put together these nice big fancy strategic reviews and have all this data on it, and at the end of the day we'd sit on one page with certain analytical data that's important to them. And then now we're looking for ways to optimize efficiency of the portfolio through higher interchange returns on network choices and network routing and different fraud solutions that are optimizing how that BIN functions and how well it functions. Because when we're talking about fraud, we're not talking about, hey, let's have really high rules so we block the fraud. Well, when you do that, then you have really upset members because their transactions don't go through. And the opposite of that is, okay, we're going to lower our rules so our transactions go through because we want our members to be happy. But you still have to answer to the board. You still have to answer to the powers that be about fraud and why your fraud losses are so high. So a good fraud program is a balancing act. How are we letting most of these transactions go through versus enough fraud rules to keep the fraudsters at bay? So when you were having those conversations, I was very quickly able to determine what was most important to the clients that I was speaking to at that time, because different time of the year might be a different thing. But when we go off script, now we're talking about what's important versus going down these lines and asking these questions. I have a checklist when I do a strategic review. Doesn't mean I follow it all the time, but it just, I don't want to make sure I'm missing the right questions. But if we're not asking the right questions, we're not listening to what they're saying, how are we going to know what the problem is? When you're doing a presentation for a sales product, who's doing the most talking? It should be them. We should be listening to what they have to say, because they'll give you the answers to the test. They really, really will, because they'll tell you what's wrong. And they'll tell you, hey, this is what I need help with. Can you help me with X? Can you help me with Y? And are we asking those questions? What is your biggest concern? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? You see those things on interview questions all the time. But when you're talking to your clients, it's very important, because when Stephanie and I are talking to our clients, we need to know where they want to be so we can help them grow to get there to achieve those goals. So what's good for one person may not be good for another. Because the one size does not fit all unless everyone's selling the same product to the same people. And we all know that doesn't really happen. Might happen in certain segs, but even then, everything's really different. So if you have your scripts, great. But if they're not yours, if they're not rewritten on how you would talk or what you would say with all the right information in there, then you don't come across genuine. Then you're just reading to somebody. And you know what? Everyone can read that's in this room. I don't need time to tell me how to read. I need you to help me solve my problems. And you're not going to know that unless you're asking the questions to get to those problems. Anybody have any questions? It's being awful quiet out there. We're kind of powering through this. Okay. So when we're looking for that solution, I have my golden rules. Is this product making or saving my clients money? Is it helpful? Does it make or save them money? When you put those solution sets together, do you know your solution set? And do you know how it's going to help your members' specific problem at the moment? So and then when you find that solution, are we offering the product that's right for the client? Or is it right for the organization? Is it right for you because you get the bonus on it? Or is that best solution that a product not be sold? Just like with the contactless cards. $30,000 is a lot of money that could be better spent on something else, or we could get the tokenization for $5 and spend that $25,000 on the upgrading of the new computers, or a better fraud tool or fraud tracking, premium two-way texting with Aries solutions or fallback solutions that help transactions go through, that minimizes false positives, that makes members happy. Because when a member does not have a false positive, they do not get a frontline staff's not getting a nasty phone call. So you see this all the time. If you have your debit card and you walk into a grocery store and you swipe your card and it gets declined, you have two emotions: it's anger or embarrassment, technically three or both. And then you're going to do one of two things. You're going to either pull out another form of payment, which will allow you to get out of that embarrassing situation. And if you don't, then you're going to call the member, you're going to call the credit union, and somebody on the other end is going to get a mouthful, and the messenger is going to get killed for something that happened. So when you're finding that solution, having something like two-way communicate or premium two-way texting, which allows the organization to send out a text going, "Hey, Evan, did you do this?" "Yes, it was me." "Great." Swipe the card, move away. Now, what happened in the background is that process has allowed Evan to not have that embarrassing situation and remove the false positive, and that's a positive member experience. That is a solution set that benefits the member, the organization. And if we didn't talk about the tokenization to save the money on the contactless cards, we wouldn't have had a conversation about these other products that cost money that we can now afford, because we're not spending that $30,000. That's going to increase the member experience, lower false positives, which in turn drives additional interchange revenue. You got all these pieces falling down the hill. And again, that's how this all ties together. I know my products, I found the right solution, I found a way to make them money or save them money, then I found a way to make them money, and at the end of the day, it was a product not being sold that allowed me to put all of this together. That is why we do the job. That's why we're here. And when you have that mindset, it makes the job easier. It really, really does. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm not getting too much ahead of myself. So that in turn defines the tripod. So does the solution serve the member? Does it serve the organization? And does it serve you? Does it serve the organizational goals? Does it serve you as reputation of, hey, Jonathan did right. He knows his products. He helped me. I'm going to come back to him when I need something, and I'm going to trust that he has my best interest at heart. So it's going to make the next sale process easier, because they're going to listen to what I have to say when I can find a solution that best suits their needs. Good for you, good for me, good for them. And when you're answering those questions about a product and service that you're offering to a member or to a client, it makes the job fulfilling, honest, and now we're providing a service. And it's not sales. It's not something dirty. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something that, oh, I can't do that, I'm not a salesperson. Or, it's not knocking door to door selling vacuum cleaners. It's, are you providing solutions that service the member, that service you, that service the organization? Because without the member, without the organization, the member can't be there. Without the member, you servicing the member can't service you, can't service the organization. You know, do the tripod, or we could do Rafiki holding up Simba, the circle of life. All those pieces are the same, and that's how it's supposed to work. It's not about, hey, we can sell the most that we want to sell and we're going to move on and sell somebody new. We don't have that luxury in our industry. You know, credit unions decline year over year over year. A lot of it is through merger and acquisitions, but a lot of it is through technology of taking people out of the branches, not having that technology to keep the people in your branches. So we want to be able to serve, and there's people out there that want the service. They didn't, Publix wouldn't exist, Whole Foods wouldn't exist, but people want that service, and that's our job to give that to them. So I want to tell a story when I was at the credit union, and it really tied for them sales versus service. So I was a new branch manager, and I was hired to replace the branch manager that was let go from a merger. And so needless to say, they did not like me, because I was the one that made their manager leave, and she'd been there for like 20 years. So it was a big branch. It was about 70 million in assets. And I had 2 loan officers. And for as big as we were, our sales were, we were like, out of 11 branches, we were like 5th. But we were the 2nd largest branch in assets. So I had this member come in, it was a couple, and they were at my loan officer's desk getting a personal loan. And I came by, I saw them, I introduced myself, you know, hey, I'm Jonathan Wright, new branch manager, just wanted to introduce myself and say hi, make sure she's taking good care of you today. And they're like, oh yeah, she's great, we love coming to see her. All the same credit union stuff that we hear all the time. And I'm like, so what brings you guys in today? Well, you know, we recently retired, and I promised Mama when we retired that she could have chickens. And this was a while ago. He didn't know how expensive eggs were going to get by then. So they might be multimillionaires by now. But anyways, so they were coming in, getting a $10,000 loan so he could build her a fence and chicken coop and blah, 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 blah. So I said, obviously you guys own your property, you're out in the, you know, rural. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, we have 3 acres out in so-and-so. And I said, well, instead of getting a personal loan, which at the time was 9%, I said, why wouldn't you get a home equity line for 4.5? Oh, I don't need that much money. Because they had a $50,000 minimum at the time to have the closing costs waived. And I'm like, well, you can get the $50,000 loan, but only take the $10,000. You can take all the money that you need to build whatever you need to build. Your interest rate's going to be half as much, and you'll probably get a little write-off on your taxes because of the interest. And he's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Well, yeah, let's do that. That makes sense. So she goes and write them all up. They do their thing and they leave. So at the time, we did not offer any incentives for personal loans, but we did for HELOCs. She's all excited, comes up to me, and she's like, you know, oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's a $50 commission. You know, I can't believe you sold them that. And I'm like, I didn't. And she kind of looked at me a little funny. And I'm like, I listened to what their problem was. I found the best solution that fitted their needs and then offered it to them. And she just looked at me, and I'm like, that's service. That's what you do every day. I didn't sell them anything. It was the best product for them that suited their needs. And she's like, you're absolutely right. And we went on next month to literally break the branch record by 48%, something like that. And where at the time, the branch's biggest sale month was like 660 in loans, and we hit 1.2 the next month. And then never went under 800,000 after. Just absolutely crushed it, because they they finally figured it out. Sales is service. And they got it out of their head. They got it out of that mindset is I'm not selling something. I'm not some sleazy salesperson. I'm a service person and I'm providing a solution. And as simple as it sounds, once you get out of the mindset that it's sales and that, yeah, you want to go sell something. Yeah, you want to make money. But when you get out of the mindset of, oh, how can I go help my members? That helps me make money, or help my clients that helps me make money, then that's good for everybody. And it changed her mindset. It changed the branch's mindset. And basically, because they were so concerned about, oh, we have these 7 different goals and how are we going to hit all these goals? And I'm like, stop thinking about the goals. You take care of the member and everything else will fall into play. You do the right thing for the member, everything else will fall into play. And it did. And it always does. When you don't think about the goal and you think about the client, everything comes into play because you're doing the right thing. And people are going to see that. And yeah, there's going to be rotten people both sides of the world. It is what it is and it happens. But you know that you're doing the best thing for the company, for the client, for yourself. And the inadvertent result of that is more sales. So does anybody want to talk about new account openings, new loan inquiries, type of conversations that people are having, your member service reps are having with members?
Jonathan, I have a similar story from yesterday.
Hot off the
I had
presses.
a member come in, and I've known her for many, many years now. And she had come in, she had received inheritance a while back, and she just retired about 5 weeks ago. And she's like, I am looking to redo my bathrooms in my house. And she's like, I have this CD that's about to become mature. I think what I want to do when it hits maturity is close it out and use those funds to redo my bathrooms. I was like, okay. I was like, well, let me give you another option that might benefit you a little bit better instead of using your personal money that you could continue to save up and have for anything else you might need, whether it be emergencies, to pass down to your grandkids when that time comes. And I introduced the HELOC to her as well because she owns her home free and clear. She no longer has a mortgage or anything on it. And so I told her about the HELOC, and I was like, instead of you having to use your personal funds that you could continue to save, you could just do this HELOC for the whatever it is that you're needing. And then if you decide later on down the road, okay, I want to redo my kitchen or any other updates you want to do to the home, you have that line of credit in place to do so instead of using your personal funds. And she was like, I didn't even think about that. I told her, about what her payment range would be and everything, depending on what she did. And she's like, I could do that. So I gave her my card, gave her some more information, and she's going to think on it because her CD doesn't mature until next month. But just, so she has those funds still set to the side for emergencies or grandkids or anything like that. And she can use the equity she has built up in her home for those renovations.
That's an awesome story. And it comes back to one of the things I say to my clients, because so my clients are credit unions. So when I go out there, what I tell my clients is the worst thing you can say to me about the performance of my duties is, I didn't know you guys did that. And if you don't ask those questions, then, and if you're not having those conversations, and then they're not going to know. And if they don't know, where are they going to go to get that help? Is it going to be someone as nice as you that's going to do that to make sure that they're taken care of and not taken advantage of? I had a lady at that same credit union. It was middle of summer, and she pulls up in this old Pontiac Transport minivan. Again, this was a while ago. And the woman had $130,000 in her checking account. And she was like 86 at the time, 84. She was getting up there and windows were down. Well, if the windows are down in July in Florida, that means one thing and one thing only. Your car either has AC or the AC doesn't work. So I asked her, I'm just like, you know, why are you driving around in this old car? And she's like, well, my husband passed away. I was like, well, that's not the answer I was looking for. She'd never bought a car before. Her husband did. You know, this was 2009. She was in her 80s. Not saying that it's right, just saying it is what it is. That was the generation of the gender roles, and her role was to stay at home. And her husband worked. She took care of the house. He took care of the cars. Her husband passed away. She couldn't ask for help. She didn't want to ask for help because she didn't want to be embarrassed. She'd never bought a car. So I'm like, let's go buy a car. And she's like, who's going to help me? I'm like, I will. We went down to the store, found her a really nice Toyota Camry. She loved it. Got her a car. Had a lot of fun while we were there because they thought we were a couple. And of course, I was my late 30s and she was in my 80s. So we had a lot of fun with that because she had a great sense of humor. But at the end of the day, you know, that was sales, but that was service. And because somebody bothered to ask. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen where, oh, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that. Oh, I didn't know you did financial planning at your credit union. I didn't know you guys offered HELOCs, or I would have came to you. And that all falls back to the dialogue. It falls back to the trust. Are you truly a trusted advisor, or are you just there taking orders, giving them what they look for? It's not McDonald's. You guys have had training. This is what you do every single day. Some of you for a little bit, some of you for a long bit, for a really long time, like Evan so politely pointed out, since the 1900s. So this is one of those things that as salespeople, if we're not talking to our clients, if we're not talking to our members, if we're not engaging them in what they need, if they're not familiar with what we provide, then how can we be their trusted advisors? It's, you know, now is it being consultative? You know, are we being proactive or are we being reactive? Are we waiting till they come into the branch, or are we reaching out? Hey, just want to make sure everything's good. Even if it's just an email, goes a long way. Every month I email all of them just to say hi, here if you need anything. And it works. People respond to it because you know, they don't need help now, but they might need help. And when they do need help, you're going to be there for them. And they're like, oh yeah, that's right. And then I can partner up with somebody on our BDC team, or partner up with Stephanie on my team, where we can go out there and consultate together, find out what that best solution is going to be. And you guys are no different when it comes to that piece. Are we engaging to the point where they feel comfortable enough that excuse me, to ask those questions or come in when they need the help? And that's what we're supposed to be doing. Now, I know we are short, really, really short, because we did not do any role play because I sped through this. But are there any questions, anything at all? Was this helpful? Is this stuff that you already know? I would love some feedback from you guys of what you think.
I don't know if this is Tracy.
Hey.
Hi. I didn't know if you wanted it in the chat. It's all good information. I just wanted to know, is any of this information available like in a presentation to go back and review?
Well, this is being recorded. So Evan, at the end of the day, will send out a link to the recording. I do have this deck. Like I said, Sherry at Priority, it was just literally, it was a visit. Tracy sitting down, like, what can we do to help? Well, you know what? I've been looking for some sales training. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And I go up to the sales desk and they're like, or to the training desk, and I'm like, do we have anything in sales? No. So I'm like, okay. I went to Melissa Visa, and I'm like, because I helped her get in touch with some clients, and I'm like, hey, you guys do sponsorships, and we got the money to do this, and that's why we offer this for free. So I have an outline that I use with this presentation, but a lot of it is just me and my personal piece, but I can definitely put that together. And Evan, is that something that you can put on the training website for people to share or have, or?
Absolutely. I can get Cameron to make us a link with a YouTube video for you guys to log into. And we can put that with it as well on the same page.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Unfortunately, the whole team can't be present, so, and I'm trying to capture as many notes as I can.
And this is one of those things too, you know, if you want me to come in and have a little more intimate, you know, let's go sit down with a couple loan officers or whatever you guys call them there, you have to ask, you know, and I have to be telling you this is something that I can do. This is something I enjoy doing. You know, I went to school, I got my degree in history to be a teacher. So I love telling stories. You want me to come out and have fun with the team, just shoot me an email and let me know. I work for the league. This is what we do.
You've got a question in the chat as well. A. Herman wants to know if you can share any tips on new account opening. And they'd also like to hear how you would transition from service request to sales conversation.
So the easiest, the first thing I would ask is, do you have the whole credit report when you're doing a new account open? And if that answer is yes, what you want to be looking for are the credit cards, how many they have, and how many of those have balances in the loans. I can boil this down to two very, very easy questions on those transitions. So Evan's sitting in front of me, and I'm looking at her credit report as I'm putting up together her account. And I'm like, oh, I see you have a loan at Bank of America. It looks like an auto loan. And she's going to say, oh, yeah, that's my Jeep Wrangler. I'm like, oh, cool. You know, like, are they taking good care of you? And then she's going to answer one of two ways. She's either going to say yes, or she's going to say no and tell me everything that's wrong with Bank of America. Oh, no, those SOBs, they don't do this. Every time I go there, there's somebody new, or, you know, they can't get this right, or they charge me an exorbitant amount of interest. But are they taking good care of you? And the yes or no. If they get yes, and you don't like to press the issue, fine. But when you're doing an account opening procedure, hey, Evan, I see you have this loan here at Bank of America. What is that for, your personal vehicle? Oh, yeah. Oh, rates have been changing. They've been crazy. What did you get? What rate do you have on that? Might be able to save you some money. She'll tell me. It's the easiest question to ask, and it should be something that you ask, because I'm not asking because I want to sell her a loan. I'm asking it because, well, you know what? If our rate's less, I can save her some money, and now I'm doing my job. So either ask flat out, or if you want a softer approach, works good in the teller line, little less sales pressure-y, is, are they taking care of you? Yes, great. That's all I needed to know. Just wanted to make sure. Or they're going to say no. And then they'll tell you everything what's wrong. And then you listen to the answers for the test. Was that you, Durbin, that asked the question?
I am waiting, yes.
Yeah.
The other question was by Amber Herman. My question is, what are your tips for getting your team to stop trying to sell what they think the member needs and ask more questions so that they can get what, you know what I mean? Like, they'll make the decision for them instead of trying to figure out what they really need or what they want. They'll assume, oh, that person can't afford this product, but that's not really fair to the member because it's their money to decide what they want to do with it.
That's a tough one, because you're enforcing the tripod. Is it good for you? Is it good for me? Is it good for them? And that's and I don't want to say, for lack of a better word, an ethical piece, because that's sales, that's not service. Now you're just selling something. So I guess should be part of the process of when you're doing that role play, maybe is looking for what are the possible solutions. But it's also might be a managerial piece to where, are you incenting these sales? And if you are, you incent the desired behavior. If you give them incentive to sell product X, the salespeople will sell product X, and they'll find a way to do it.
Right, they are
So-
incented, some of them it is incentive, but they're not selling them. For example, we have a Smart Rewards checking account, great
Mhm.
product, but they don't need that, they can't afford that, or like that's their mentality sometimes. It's not really worth it, like they're not bought into the product all the time either. So a lot of it is they're making the decision for them.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do, because I don't want to say a character flaw as much as that's their character. So that's something that you have to, I don't want to say manage down to them, but it's ultimately going to be your responsibility to manage the sales out of the service and the service into the sales, however you want to look at it, of how are we meeting the tripod, what my core belief for this branch or this organization needs to be. Services first, or how are we helping our members? And ask yourself, how am I helping my members? And are we asking all the right questions? That might be where a script comes into place, to where they're asking those specific, hey, did you ask these questions? Doesn't have to be in this order, doesn't have to be said the way I say it, but are you asking these specific questions of what those balances are going to be? Are we going to get direct deposits? What these interest rate returns are, so it will be the most beneficial for the client. Almost like I won't say a Venn diagram, but basically, is it meeting all of those pieces, when you're looking for that final answer? And then that way, that would be something that you would have to follow up on to make sure that they're doing. And that's a tough thing to do when you're wearing 20 different hats, got 100 things going on, and we spend all day with our fireman's hat on putting out fires. But this is one of those parts where we're steering the ship and maintaining the ship. So when you're taking that time to have those coaching sessions with those particular employees that are doing this, you have to call them out on it and be like, hey, does it answer all of these questions? And make sure they have that pattern there, so they know that they just can't go, and prejudge. Everybody has a prejudge story, and they, call it prejudging for a reason. My favorite prejudging story came from when I first got out of the military, and I was a fleet manager at a Ford dealership. You had a couple looking at cars. It was 45 degrees and raining. Nobody goes to look at cars when it's 45 degrees and raining unless they need a car. And they were just very, lack of a better word, redneck-ish looking, old, broken down truck.
The one with all the money.
Yeah. And well, no, they were both very hardworking. That truck was his first truck from high school. He bought it brand new when he was like 17 years old.
Wow.
And he just never wanted to get rid of it because it was sentimental. Ended up buying, back in the 90s, a $40,000 van, which was a lot of money. He was a plant manager. She was the secretary for the governor. They had the highest beacon that store had ever seen. They had 840 beacons, both of them. And he sent me a referral every single month. But nobody wanted to help them because they looked so, everybody has those stories of prejudging. And, and you have 100 reasons to do it, and then you'll have 10 reasons not to do it. But the 10 reasons you don't do it are the reasons you do it. And that's why we're there. Make sure that they're following a little more standardized procedures, so they're not prejudging, I think would be my best advice.
Thank you. Would you do me one more thing? Can you
Absolutely.
skip back to your tripod page? Yes, I didn't get all those notes. Thank
Oh.
you.
No problem. I love the questions, guys. What else? Anybody?
I think is it Sayala? I think you're trying to speak, but for some reason the speaker's not picking up your sound. Well, maybe not.
Okay. Well, Evan, I will get you the well, I think you have the outlining, the training outline, the longer page.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to post both of those, I'm completely comfortable with it.
Okay. We will, as soon as I can get our website person to get that up on a page for you guys, I'll have it out to everybody.
Okie doke.
And
Thank
thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Do you guys have
Oh.
any other questions or want Jonathan's contact information to come in to speak for you guys and do an in-person sales training? Feel free to reach out to me or to get his contact information. I'd be happy to connect you guys.
Absolutely. Be my pleasure. This, like I said, this is the league. This is what we do. This is why you're part of the league. And you guys need help, we're here. But thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people, Evan was very impressed with how many people signed up for it, and it's going to be recorded. If you want to do this again, let me know. I can add to it, do some more, because like I said, this was the first one. So you guys get to be the guinea pigs. So I do appreciate it. But any feedback, how I can make this better, if we want to continue to do this, please let me know. I'd love to hear that. One of the fun rules of sales is there's nothing that you can't steal. Meaning, oh, I like the way he or she did that or said this or said that, and I'm going to take that, make it my own, and I'm going to use it again. So absolutely, I'd love to hear any feedback that anyone has, and get you out early, get you some time back, tell everybody you still had to work until 12, and enjoy your time off.
I'll tell you this, Jonathan, you didn't have to tell us you were nervous because we can't tell. You did a great job.
Well, you know what? When I'm waiting for the heart rate to come down under 100 again, I'll go make myself a nice coffee afterwards.
You
But
did
thank
fine.
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Bye.
Bye.